All right, welcome everyone to our Wednesday, October 23rd, 2013 meeting. I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Thank you everyone for coming. Item 2 will be the approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, approval of minutes.
Move to approve the minutes of last week's meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion on the minutes? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And item 4, approval of claims for payment.
Make a motion to approve the claims for payment.
I will second.
So moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The claims are approved. We are going to jump down to item 8, which is a GIS quarterly report. We have a public hearing scheduled for 10:05, and we'll have to wait till 10:05. So Micah, you're here, so let's just run through your quarterly report quick.
All right. You guys should have received a copy of the quarterly report covering from July 1st through September 30th of this year. No big surprises. Fiscally, we're right where we've planned for, so that's what I like to see. We've been selling plat books in our recorder's office. We're in our 3rd year, and we still have been getting good reception to them. So that's kind of one of the revenue sides that it hasn't really tapered off, and I've gotten pretty good feedback. But so I've been really pleased with that. I was surprised to find out it's been 3 years that we've been doing this. It has gone fast. You guys can see the kind of tasks that our office has been dealing with, but the one that's been taking up the most time and the highest priority for our office has been the development of a land use layer in conjunction with the changes that have come down from the legislation regarding tillable and non-tillable land and how the assessor's office assesses that property. And we're choosing to do that in-house instead of contracting with a vendor. And it's doable. It's just a time-consuming project, but we've got about 6 months. We've got over a quarter of the county done just in the few months. We didn't really even get started on it till the beginning of August because of waiting for more specific rules to the definition of the tillable and non-tillable and procedures. And so it's going really well. It's just, it is a high priority and it is taking up a lot of time. It hasn't really caused us to move back any projects, but maybe just not respond as fast, knowing that this has a deadline of mid-spring is the goal here. But it's going really well. In conjunction with that, though, we are developing a water layer, which seems so obvious and simple, but we've never really taken the time to create a really good hydrology layer for the county. The state has one, but it's not quite at the level of detail that we need it to be when we're looking at land use and parcels. And so that's also been a not surprising, but a time-consuming task. But the end result is we'll have a nice hydrology layer for the county, which we've never had before, a level of detail that the state and Fed just never look at. Other than that, we are working with the biggest group, outside group we've been working with has been EMS and 911. I've got a meeting with the Iowa Falls Fire Department in 2 weeks. We printed off a map for them 3 years ago, and we're going to be updating it and adding some new information and working with them on addressing or maps that show addressing and stuff inside and outside the corporate limits. So I'm going to meet with them they have like a monthly meeting in the evening, so I'm going to meet with them. And the other thing I wanted you guys to be aware of is several department heads are meeting on trying to determine when we're going to do the next aerial photography flight. The last flight the county flew was 2008. And so we're, especially in relationship to this land use development, it's definitely time to have a new flight. And so we're looking at a couple different options and looking at how we can do budgets. So just as a heads up, when we come to you guys for the next year's budget for fiscal year 15, there'll probably be some stuff in there about aerial photography. But anything that we might start even looking at flying next spring, we'll be able to work with the existing budget. So we won't need to do an amendment or anything like that. We're not planning it like that, but for the next budget to get approved. So when we know more, we'll bring it to you guys.
Okay. Any questions for Micah? I always enjoy your reports and what you're doing out there.
Fun reading, isn't it?
Yes. thank you for that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Peanut gallery here, is that, whatever place, that's not the NRCS photographs, this is a totally different set
Yes,
of
the
photographs?
the NRCS flies the Nate photography, and we use it. It's one of our references. In fact, we're waiting in great anticipation. We hope to get 2013s in the next couple weeks, so we're keeping our eye out for that. The problem is it's leaf on in the summertime, and their resolution is 1 meter resolution. And when we fly, we want 6-inch resolution leaf off spring
Okay.
flight, so we can see
The ground.
ground. Yeah, exactly. So it's one of the arsenal of imagery, any statewide imagery or federal imagery of our county that we can get our hands on. We have it as a reference, but so far nothing's been quite at the level of detail that we need to use at the county level.
Okay.
And the trend and what we're hoping is maybe the next time that the state flies, they did our area in 2009, is they're talking about collaboration with local governments and doing like
That
a
was my
buy-up
thought.
option.
All right. We could save some money, but apparently not.
That would be it is amazingly difficult to organize it. Every time we think it might happen, it gets bogged down with 99 counties and their own, wanting to do their own projects. And so, but the trend and the hope is that it's silly to have all these different companies flying the same area. Like, we'd like to get everyone a product that everyone can use and be happy with. That's what I would like.
Yeah, me too, so thank you.
Is this the same thing you do in Franklin County too?
Yes, and they flew in 2012 from spring, and they hadn't flown since 2004, so it had been 8 years. So, and their product had been, at that time, it was 2 feet black and white, and so this is the first time they finally got 6-inch color. So now it's hard. Not that they have to take turns, but you're happy with aerials, and it seems new for like 2 years, and then immediately it just starts being old. And now at 2008, by the time we do 4, that's 6 years old. It just feels ancient when you look at some of the changes and the construction that's happened and around communities and whole businesses that have sprung up since 2008 that aren't even there. And then we end up relying on state and federal air photography that's newer, just as a point of reference, even if the resolution's not as good.
I'm working on some overlays now, and it'd be easy if we just had the one.
It would. And then there was talk about Google Maps, and they have their private companies, they just fly their own thing. And
The energy guys do their own thing.
Yes, everyone does their own thing, and when you think about the amount of money that we spend towards private companies for air photography, it's astounding. It is.
Great. Thank you. I would to take a motion on accepting the GIS quarterly report.
Move to accept the GS quarterly report.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Micah.
Thanks.
All right, we will jump back up to item 5 then, which is our public hearing on the budget amendment. Now we'll go ahead and open the hearing up and field any questions from anybody in the room on what we have before us. A big share of it is just interdepartmental money that's being moved from one fund to the other. And then towards the bottom of the sheet, we have Board of Health, grants, non-departmental insurance, secondary roads, and sheriff that we have extra going into there. We do have our auditor here that could visit with us on anything too. Go ahead, Jessica.
$61,000 that is reflected in the revenue is also on the expense side. It's a pass-through, and that's because Greenbelt, as our contracted public health provider, is now required by the state to run all of the public health money through us, grant money-wise. It comes to us first, and then we disperse it back to them.
Okay.
So that it's separate from their funds. So that needed to be amended for because we had not planned for that change. So it doesn't really affect our bottom line, but it necessitated this. So then we also had, and this is on your sheet if you
Okay.
have that in your packet, but we also had a refund from our housing trust fund where the housing trust through Region 6 has changed over time, and the program that they do now is different than what it was at the time that the house was built and occupied and renovated, whatever, by this person who received these funds. they sold it and didn't keep it for the specified amount of time, and thus we were refunded back some money that we had given them as part of this grant. So when the refund came back to us, I had to contact Region 6, who then contacted the state, who said, no, you need to return that money to us. So I had to also put that in here because we had not budgeted for getting money and sending it back to the state. So in order for me to write the check out, that had to be in there. And then you have in the capital projects area, which is the biggest chunk of what's going on. Oh, I skipped over something, sorry. On the liability insurance of $100,000, we budgeted for Heartland Insurance Risk Pool, our liability coverage, and we didn't budget enough. We were short by about $100,000. Workers' compensation costs increased, and also our schedules weren't entirely accurate when we went into budgeting the dollars, and once they were containing all of our properties on it, then of course that increased our premiums to them. So the shortcoming was covered by this. And earlier in the year, you moved money from other appropriations to cover that payment. So part of what you're doing on your appropriations is just moving those dollars back to the departments we borrowed from, if that makes sense to you. And then the biggest area is the capital projects, and that has a big portion of it is leftover from the Garden Wind Farm TIF project that we did, where we improved roads and such in that area. We had money expended out of capital projects, and it was all budgeted in one particular fiscal year, and it didn't get accomplished, so this is just kind of like leftover. The money's there in the fund, but we didn't budget for it to be spent, so now I'm putting it in the budget by amendment.
Okay.
And then the boiler system and roof repairs at the jail are in here. So a couple things that, like I said, they sprang up, but they don't really impact your bottom dollar that terrible. Most of what it is stuff that we just had no way of knowing, so.
Okay. Any questions for Jessica? Anyone? Anyone else have a question on it? If not, I will go ahead and close the public hearing on the budget amendment and ask for a approval of the budget amendment for 2013-2014.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget amendment for 13-14.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Can I have a roll call on that, please?
You have, Nancy, you have two. Then you have a resolution.
Then you'll need to adopt a resolution.
Okay, so you want roll call on the approval?
On the.
Okay.
Ron?
Aye.
Lance?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Then we'll go to item 7, the actual resolution on the budget amendment appropriations.
Move to approve the resolution on budget amendment appropriations.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, that would be a roll call vote.
Lance?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Thank you.
And that motion carries. All right. If I haven't missed anything, I believe we're down to item 9, and that is Cindy Goodner on our trail project. Welcome, Cindy.
Well, thanks for having me again. I'm going to pass out, this is almost the identical resolution you have in front of you. The only change is it mentions a trail commission purchasing liability insurance, if a trail commission was
Okay.
created. So, let's hand that out first. And then also, I know that I've shared this document with you before, but I wanted to bring it again this morning just as a point of reference. So we've been working hard the last month, brainstorming and figuring out how we can own the trail locally. As you know, it was announced this month that the State Recreational Trails Program has awarded the full requested amount of $775,000 to Hardin County and Marshalltown for the land acquisition of the Iowa River Rail Trail. Those funds will be becoming available in the coming weeks, and Marshalltown is the owner of the entire section of trail in Marshall County, and in Hardin County, we're still trying to figure it out. We had a workshop on Friday, October 11th in Marshalltown, and I was thankful that Ron was able to come and join us during that discussion. We met for several hours talking about what would be the best scenario and what we thought would be best, the best way to set up ownership and shared responsibility of our Hardin County portion of the trail. And from that discussion, we came to an agreement that we thought the best way to go after this project would be for Hardin County to own the entire 22-mile segment in Hardin County, and to have a Trails Commission created that would be a county commission to help manage the project, take the phone calls, answer the emails, fundraise for the project, participate in visioning, and basically manage the project. And that county commission would be a county appointed position composed of representatives from each of the communities that the trail would pass through, as well as other volunteers that are interested and knowledgeable that could help lead the project, to have a total commission of 9 members. We felt that the pros outweighed the cons by having the county take single ownership of this project for a lot of considerations. With the size of the towns that we're dealing with, to have one continuous project, and for our volunteer board or the volunteer commission to work with one landowner versus 4. So the resolution that's in front of you today details that the county would take ownership and that a county commission be created to help manage the project. And I'm not sure has the county attorney had a chance to look over this document?
He has looked over it real quick. He had a trial sprang on him basically this week.
Yep.
And so I visited with him yesterday, and he had read over it pretty quickly and didn't see anything too major, wrong
Okay.
either way. Just a little bit of wording that he was concerned with, but nothing.
Nothing major.
Yeah, right.
So I wanted to have a discussion and take questions from you or from anyone with questions about this framework, and how you feel about it.
Okay.
Deadlines?
Deadlines for the grant.
We should have the grant agreement here, and then land acquisition is scheduled for November 15th.
Yes.
Is that right?
I'm not sure, you probably at minimum have received, and correct me if I'm wrong, the letter from the DOT that announced your award.
Right.
And have you received the contract or anything that looks like a contract?
I believe that's what we have in front of us here
From DOT?
From the
from the
DOT.
Iowa Department of Transportation.
Yep,
Yes.
okay. So, I'm not sure if that gives any deadlines in there, but as soon as that is approved and signed, the county is able to start expending funds. We, Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation, in our purchase agreement with Iowa River Railroad, anticipate to close mid-November. I believe it's November 15th, give or take a day. And from that point, we will have expended funds and potentially start accruing interest on that.
So the bottom line there is that as quickly as we could get the land transferred to the public agencies, we're not borrowing the $750 to bankroll the project very long.
But as soon as we would take ownership, we also take on liability. And we were talking signs and
Yeah, so like I said, the commission is looking into purchasing liability insurance. So the trail would be, in essence, double insured by the county and the commission. We have looked into signs. I know that there have been people on the trail, and the trail is closed. And we found a sign vendor yesterday. Jackson County uses Voss signs, and they found trail signs that says no trespassing, trail closed, and they're only $1 per sign. So
plastic.
Yeah, plastic. So I think, you know, we have a lot of volunteers that are ready to go, but we really can't keep moving forward until we get ownership figured out and that everyone's comfortable with. But yeah, signs saying that the trail is closed, that's something that could happen pretty inexpensively and very quickly.
Legally, should we not have the commission set up before we take ownership?
You,
Can I ask a question here? I think initially, the supervisors had envisioned this, if I remember correctly, the original wording was to the County Conservation Commission. The question, I think, is, do you want them in between us and you guys, or do you want us to report directly to you guys? And I think that's a question I have in my mind when I came this morning, is the County Conservation Board still in the picture, or would we be directly responding to you guys?
County Conservation would not be in the picture
Okay,
unless you contracted them for something.
okay.
Or if they were able to participate and be a member on the Trails Commission, would that be
Correct.
possible?
That was the other question that I had about maybe non-voting members
Uh-huh.
on the commission, 9 voting members, and then maybe having some non-voting
Sure.
members.
Yeah.
And they could, help advise us.
I think it's a big project. It's gonna take as
It's a
many
big
people
project.
as
Mhm.
possible to help with a lot of the different tasks, so, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt in the
No, you're
background.
not.
But to your question about setting up the commission before you take ownership, essentially this resolution would create that structure of being able to set up that commission, and then it would just be a matter of appointing those different members, which can be done at your next meeting, and would still be able to take place prior to the closing and the purchase of the corridor. And then as far as to the members and the voting and non-voting, I think we looked at 9 so that each jurisdiction, county, as well as the communities would be represented, and I think that's even spelled out in the resolution that we want to make sure that the county and the cities are there helping to guide these decisions, but any
Realistic.
new rules, laws, or spending that would impact the jurisdictions, including the county, would go back to them for a final okay.
Okay. You were mentioning dates for deadlines, and I think we're a little unclear on what our deadline dates are to have everything in place.
Well,
I think our deadline is, we have to close on the acquisition with the railroad.
Okay.
November 15th.
So as soon as we,
That's-
to minimize holding costs,
Right.
then I don't know that we have a deadline, but we just want to make sure things
Okay.
keep moving.
But
Yeah.
you were saying interest maybe starts,
But we're gonna have to
Well,
borrow
15th.
money to, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you're in escrow for light. It's okay. There's no penalty.
As far as the contract with the DOT goes, there's no immediate deadline that we have to.
Well, not that I'm aware of, but I haven't read your contract. I don't believe so. If it is, it's spelled out in there. But you can't spend any of the money until you've signed that.
Right.
We can't close with you until you sign that and send that back.
okay.
So that's a whole other issue.
So we're not in fear of losing this if we don't do anything today.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I never did, when I was reading through it,
I
I did
never saw
not.
a deadline date.
No. On that.
And Andrea, that's something that actually we should probably sit down and have conversations on, again, between the county and you guys.
Regarding the
Timing,
Timing.
transfer.
Sure.
Yes.
that kind of stuff, that would be good.
Yeah, and the way I look at it, the commission is a safety blanket between liability issues and financial issues, between what could occur with the trail and the county. And I'd really like to have that safety blanket there as soon as we could.
Mhm.
Well, I think what I'm hearing from everyone, and I don't want to put words in these two guys' mouth, I think I could say we're definitely in favor of moving forward with this. I think we want to move forward cautiously and to make sure that it's done correctly at the start, so we don't end up in a worse place than we are right now. And that's kind of why we're quizzing you on the dates, because we're still having our people look at this and lawyers look at this, and our county attorney is so busy that we may even go outside of that just to make sure that the people of Hardin County are comfortable with the agreement that we do sign into. On the other hand, we don't want to cost anybody interest money and lose any type of grant. So I know there's a rush here to get this going as fast as we can, and I hope that you don't think we're dragging our feet. We're just trying to dot all the i's and cross the t's.
Well, and we have been moving at a pretty good pace.
We have, yeah.
So it's not like we aren't moving forward.
Right.
We just want to be successful as we do move forward.
And I think it's great and also important that, you know, you do have a county attorney or some attorney look that over to make sure that everything is done correctly. And like I said, we close on the 15th. Yes, there'll be some, you know, we'll start accruing some holding costs there, but if it's an extra week for the sake of the project and for people's comfort, that's not a big deal. An extra 2 weeks, that's not a big deal, but we do want to continue to move forward so that way we can start to not only transfer that, but there's additional funding set up within that grant to help with some initial safety stabilization of the corridor and things of that nature, that that funding can also start being used once that DOT contract is signed.
And those are all jobs, you know. It's a great project. We got almost $1 million so far that's come from this idea, and how much more can follow. I mean, quite a bit, actually. Over the generations, we should be able to apply for amenities, restrooms, parking areas, improvements to green areas. I mean, you name it. These towns will all benefit down the road on this thing. It connects us to the rest of the world federally. So,
Good.
it's exciting.
Any questions from the board for Cindy or?
Oh, on part of this DOT, I don't know if we want to have a meeting another date to kind of go through some of this. The 75,000 of that is for maintenance.
Well, it's not really maintenance,
Yeah, I
but
wouldn't
it's
use
for,
that word.
what do we call it, corridor stabilization, I think.
Well, that's what you should call it, I guess. I understand.
Yeah,
Because it's not really
I shouldn't
maintenance,
use
I
that
mean,
word
you're
either.
doing improvements to bridges and things like that, so, yeah.
In theory,
I
yes.
suppose you could call it.
You could call it maintenance,
Kind of a
but
hotspot.
the DOT doesn't fund maintenance. So so you're doing initial corridor work.
So as two counties applying for one grant, how does that get divided on the trail?
So, that goes back to, and I don't know if you have that
We're
flow chart
2/3 of the
sitting in
trail.
front of you.
And I think that would be addressed by the super committee, which is a joint team of representation from both Hardin County and Marshall County. And that team, basically, we need to get the trail evaluated, assessed, whatever, as soon as possible, and then create a priority list of needs, what needs to happen first,
So
second,
we were
third,
talking
you
about
know.
possibly hiring an engineer to
Yeah.
help us determine.
But the initial, for instance, bridge inspections are fairly minimal. I've talked to the county engineer, and they're visuals, they're not core samples, and they aren't that expensive, but they do need to be done.
Well, $200 to $300 per bridge.
Right, right.
And we're talking 21 bridges just in, so, you know, there is gonna be a cost.
Well, I guess it depends on your perspective. I was
Yeah,
thinking,
the grant will cover that, and exactly what you're saying as far as how that money breaks out, that leftover money breaks out, is we're hoping that super committee, whatever joint committee, which will have voting members of the jurisdiction, so it's pretty even between folks in Marshall County and folks in Hardin County to come together and decide based on safety priority what gets done initially with that leftover money. And I think that based on just tentative conversations that took place last week, hiring an engineer to get out there and really figure out where the safety spots are, or safety improvement needed spots are, and to start prioritizing that, to look at the bridges and really identify what needs to be done, was talked about as being the first step with that leftover money.
So would you use that money to hire the engineer to decide where we need to spend it?
Not where we're gonna spend it, but how much each thing needs to be spent. So.
But that money still pays for the engineer, or is that a free agency from you guys?
Okay, you can go back and get it.
We don't have engineers.
No, that
comes from the grant.
if that funding, the grant would cover, funding from the grant would cover that. I do not anticipate that being $75,000. And it wouldn't be very in-depth. It would just be more of just some preliminary ideas of what needs to be done, which will also help us determine what can be done by volunteers and donated materials, and what needs to be planned and written into the next development grant.
So it'd be kind of an order of events of
Sure.
what needs to be done.
Sure.
Just as a for instance, if we were to put a cyclone fence on a bridge, how far does that fence need to extend beyond the bridge? You know, those are things that it'd be nice to have an outside consultant tell us you need to go 20 yards or 15 yards or whatever.
You have a very active snowmobile group who have, initially committed a lot of materials and time to do some stabilization work along the corridor. So this preliminary engineer would be able to guide them in, this is what you can do with those materials, and this is what you need done, or need to make sure you use when you're using those materials. So, I mean, essentially, you'll spend a little money, but you'll end up doubling the worth you'll get out of it. But all of that can be covered with the money in the grant.
Okay.
But again, we still don't know where it's getting divided at. It'd be across the whole trail.
You don't. And I think the goal here is to look at the trail as a whole and figure out, how can everybody keep working together to get the best product in the end and get people using it, close to the communities first, because that's what's going to continue to build the excitement for it. So,
And because of that, the sooner we can set up our commissions, the better.
Yeah.
Because then we were talking about, because everything starts with them, and we've got the super commission set up then also. So everybody can understand, we've got a commission out of Marshalltown, we've got a commission out of Hardin County, and then we've got the super commission that has the vision of the whole trail from Marshalltown to Steamboat Springs up, actually a little farther north. But it would be good getting that set up. And then, we do have some other issues with liability and getting those signs set up. And we were talking about a website to answer some of the questions so that we wouldn't have to receive so many phone calls at
And
first.
you can direct them to hardincountytrails.org. There's information
We talked about that.
posted
So-
already today.
Yeah, and it'd be nice to have a phone number set up for calls. So there are a lot of things that we're moving forward on right now, and we are moving forward. But some things that would be nice to have in place before the purchase
Sure.
was.
So this resolution, I understand, kind of helps do that,
It's
kind of
worded-
helps set
it's
the.
an easier read than the 2080 that we were looking at before.
Right.
Mhm.
Is Hardin County the fiscal agent for,
The
grants?
grants.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
it Hardin or Marshalltown?
The supervisors.
after the grant is finished, is there anything yet that has dictated or said who then after that is going to be responsible for I hate to say the money, but, you know, who's gonna be the super banker?
Yes, it's probably gonna have County or Marshalltown.
We're hoping that Marshalltown is acting as the fiscal agent for the Marshall County segment right now. Trails Inc. will be a 501c3 certified nonprofit.
Okay.
So when they get that figured out and get approved for that, they will be managing the funding.
For their part.
For their part. In Hardin County, we would like the Trail Commission to be a county-appointed commission, and we're asking that Hardin County be the fiscal agent for the project. So funding that comes in to be, grants that come in to be spent on the project will come through Hardin County. Hardin
It's
County
you.
will be the applicant.
Yeah. So I guess why I'm asking is, in the future, when we apply for different grants, again, for the trail as a whole, that encompasses both county, we're gonna pretty much win by default as the fiscal agent, so to speak, because we've already been the fiscal agent for the first grant.
I don't know, that's an interesting.
Well, I think that depends. I know that this first grant included both counties because we were doing this as a one project land acquisition. In the future, grants are going to be specific, project-oriented, segment-oriented. It's not gonna be
So
like
if
an
it's in-
all-encompassing.
If it's something that we're doing in the Marshall County side of it, they actually could accept it and be
Yes.
fiscal agent. It
Yes.
doesn't have to come through
Yes,
us.
not everything for the entire project will come through Hardin County. Hardin County specific projects
But we
will-
definitely are the fiscal agent for the $775,000 grant that has already been.
Well, I think you're gonna have to almost look at a fair share, if you're gonna get the
Well,
legal,
in reality,
legalese, you know.
It's gonna be one payment,
Mhm.
you know, except for the extra money. I guess we'll have to figure that one out, but,
There's room for negotiation there.
yeah. Ideally, it would be one entity, just at this point, to keep things simple with DOT and,
And the government is usually
and
the
the
better
grant
entity to
itself.
have it handle $1 million. You need a budget that can handle $1 million in and out in 30 days or 60 days. Maybe not a million, but hundreds of thousands of dollars. Because it's a construction project, it's not unlike a road project. So private group, unless they're really, really well-moneyed, it's gonna be tough.
well, it has to be a public agency anyway, because it's
Yeah.
DOT money.
Yeah.
I ask too, because if you're talking about a pass-through of money, it's not that simple, where
Which we just went through.
Right, it's an amendment. I mean, you have to authorize me to spend that much money again, and we have to go through the publication of receiving the funds and expending them out so it doesn't affect our bottom line. And I can't write checks until we do that. So I mean, if this is what we're leaning towards, I'm okay with that and I don't have a problem with it, but I have to know that that's what we're leaning towards, and I guess it didn't occur to me until today. So I
then you're
apologize that it didn't sit with me and register that we're gonna have to do another amendment right away in order to authorize me to write any check that's going to purchase it from the National, or the Natural Heritage Foundation. Yeah.
And we can talk, we can certainly talk with you after this and kind of go over, because it won't, never mind, I'm not gonna say that. Yeah, we can talk about that and figure out exactly the amount, and DOT is pretty good. I know it's the process more than it is the pass-through. So we can certainly work with you on that if that's how it works out. But like Cindy said, it doesn't necessarily mean that Hardin County is doing all of the development from here on out. It's just this one grant. Any future one, the commission that is set up would also have a heads up that can work with you or whoever else in the county to give them a reasonable time heads up from here on out too.
I think Trails Inc. also should be, excuse me, applauded for stepping to the plate and supported by us. It's not gonna be that easy. Marshalltown, you know, just like any other town has its different opposing views and so forth. So the more organized and more buttoned up we are, the better off it'll be for them as well in defending their position. So.
Okay.
So what do you foresee the next step?
Well, if you want to vote on this now, great. If you want the county attorney or some other folks to look at it and have another discussion about it, I would suggest that happens sooner than later, so that at the next supervisors meeting, not only can you vote on this, but you can also be ready to make those appointments and feel comfortable signing that DOT document. And again, I mean, that can happen in the next week, the next 2 weeks, but the sooner the better.
And I know this is trivial, but as soon as it's signed, shouldn't we have signs posted?
Like I said, we've
And
got
we're
a
not
signed
ready for
vendor that
that.
we're ready to.
As soon as what's signed.
The
Grant.
transfer and they own it.
Well, the grant is one thing.
Well,
but
the
ownership-
transfer, ownership.
transfer.
And you
Yeah.
talk about hunting in the wintertime, so.
Sure, and that's something that we're already actively working on in Marshall County with Marshall Town, with Trails Inc. So it's just an extending the conversation up here as well.
Whose railroad signs are they, yours or the railroad?
Railroad.
Okay. That's been asked quite a few times.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
they're coming down.
Oh, yeah.
They said
Having
the
the-
next week or two, they were gonna start.
They should,
That's, yeah.
I mean,
The commission will,
hopefully.
setting the
Can't speak.
commission up will help get, just sort of.
That'll be a focus for funding and everything.
And it'll take a lot of these conversations off of your plate so that they're happening.
Or they might have more.
Or at least when they get to you, they're
They're a
more
little more
report
vetted,
outs
yeah.
than they are, we need you to make a decision then.
As of right now, I would look at tabling this for next week and hoping that we can get a meeting together and kind of have the lawyers go through this sitting with us. So we might change a few things in it. I saw a couple things I'd like changed, but moving forward, bring this back up again next week, and hopefully we can have 1 or 2 meetings in there throughout the week.
Ahead of
and-
next Wednesday.
Yes,
Mhm.
so that we can get the lawyers and some other people, and we can look at people appointing, and we can do all this, have it already set up for us. So I'll make the motion to table till next week.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded that we table, do you want to table everything?
I'm
Yep.
just doing the resolution right now.
We're just on the resolution right now, all right, so we're just currently talking about the resolution. To table the resolution until next week and have some meetings set up to go over it and have it in place for our next county supervisors meeting. Is there any further discussion on that?
Do you guys want us to check in like at halfway point or before the meeting to make sure all the questions are answered? so
You'll be
that-
in the meetings.
Yeah, so
that the
after
meeting
the
will be-
meeting, why
okay.
don't you check to see if the county attorney would have time,
Okay.
either at the end of this week or beginning of next week, and one of you can contact me
Okay.
or any of,
Yep.
and just let me know what works best
Yep.
for everyone, and we'll get some.
I think we're making progress. I mean, we've got it down to 2, we're getting close.
Making
It's just
great
getting
progress.
Excellent.
the final things put in place, so.
Okay,
We
sounds great.
appreciate your guys'
Leadership.
ability to get this, have these conversations and the leadership, so thank you.
All right, all's in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That motion carries. Thanks, Cindy.
Okay, thank you.
Again, I'm gonna table the agreement for state recreational
Okay.
trails project, Scenic River Trail, till next week as well.
There's a second
I'll
on
second
that.
that.
Second by Ron. Any further discussion? Not all's in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That motion carries, and that is tabled till next week. That is everything on trails that I have. Our next item of business is Seeds of Hope. Jamie?
Thank you. I was here a couple weeks ago
Mhm.
letting everyone know that the state of Iowa has restructured domestic violence and sexual assault services, and that crisis intervention would be taking over services in Hardin County. But at that time, I didn't know when that might be. It was just a couple days after that meeting that we got approval through our federal grants and state, and everything worked out. And so Crisis Intervention Service will be the domestic violence and sexual assault agency for Hardin County starting November 1st. So it's happening pretty quickly, and we're going to transition to the new agency where this 2 Seeds of Hope staff that was covering Hardin County are being hired on by Crisis Intervention Service, so keeping the same staff, want to keep the same office space, same services. Really not a lot changing other than it's a different agency name and a different agency, getting funding for Hardin County to provide the services. So I did bring Mary Ingham. She is the Director of Crisis Intervention Service, which is based out of Mason City, but will be covering 15 counties in north central Iowa, including Hardin County. So I just wanted to make sure the board was informed. We'll also probably come back in November to let you know kind of how things are going and that we have fully transitioned. But I definitely wanted to bring Mary to introduce you to her, and so that if you had any questions,
Okay.
she's awesome.
Sure.
Welcome.
Thanks
Yeah.
for having me.
You bet.
As Jamie said, our organization will be serving 15 counties. We're
Okay.
currently serving just 14, but November 1st we'll have 15. Historically, we have served 8 counties, so we feel like we have a pretty good response model for rural Iowa. And I
Okay.
think that's the reason the state chose to give us 7 additional counties. I do have some brochures. And then my contact information as well.
Oops.
A whole stack of brochures.
Perfect. Perfect.
But yeah, our hope is to make this transition as seamless as possible, number one, for victims in the community and also for service providers. I think we are, in one way, very fortunate to be able to be working with Seeds of Hope because they have such a fine history in the community of providing quality services. That also is a little scary for me as a director because I want to make sure that during this transition, nothing falls through the cracks and we don't see a decrease in quality. On one level, I think it'd be a lot easier to come in and take over for a sketchy agency that provided bad services, and then we know we could do better. So
Right.
our goal is to maintain everything that's been happening and the good work and the quality and the reputation that Seeds of Hope has had. I think we're keeping the same phone numbers. Hopefully, the Board of Supervisors will allow us to have the same office space, same staff. So again, I think pretty seamless for the community. My hope is that the biggest change that people see is a different name, and our staff will have a different name on their paychecks every other week. Any questions about us?
Is the Eldora location a good location? I mean, the offices and everything that are provided, is that working out well for you?
Yes, yeah, that works great.
Okay.
It's, very centrally located, being by a courthouse, doing civil protective orders, all those types of
Okay.
things. So, yeah, the office location works great. We also, do outreach in Iowa Falls and
Right.
other places too. But
Right.
to have kind of our central office, I think it's been there for so long. And so having walk-ins or people that have maybe phones, they know where to go to find us. So I think with this transition, minimizing change as much as possible, I think is ideal. And so we, want to kind of stay where we're at right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Are you guys still eligible for United Way funding? Because I'm the United Way guy, so if you have a brochure, I can.
I sure hope we are.
Well, you do, under Seeds of Hope you do, and I just want to make sure we get it right, so.
Yep, and
If
that-
you could put a letter together requesting, that would be great.
That's definitely what we will
Thank
be
you.
doing, is working with all of our funding agents right now, transitioning that over and everything.
I'll make sure this gets to the committee.
Excellent, thank you.
One of the things we have done historically within our agency, because we serve 8 counties, a lot of our rural counties don't necessarily like seeing that our main office is located in Mason City and sending their local money off to Mason City. One of the things we do is to make sure that local dollars serve local communities. So, for example, for Kasuth County, where we get a significant amount of support from their county and their churches, we make sure that all of those dollars are used just in the counties that they come from, because we don't feel that Hardin County should have to pick up the tab for other counties. So we have a really good budgeting system, accounting system, to make sure that we're spending local dollars locally and not supplementing other counties and communities.
It's good to know.
We use our federal and state dollars to kind of pick up those gaps in between, so.
Hmm.
You see
Any
any
questions?
increases or decreases, anything that you can talk about? I know it's fairly confidential.
I mean, overall,
Mhm.
agency-wide, we continue to see about a 10 to 15% increase every year. in my mind,
It's terrible.
I want to believe that that's an increase in awareness, not an increase in violence. I just have to believe that, otherwise, I don't know that I could sleep at night. And so in that case, I do think it's good that there is more awareness, more people that know where to go, more people reaching out for help. And I think I've been doing this work for 24 years, and it felt like in the beginning, we were the only people that cared. And I know that wasn't true. But now we are working, we work closely with law enforcement, prosecution. It's more of a team approach, and I think that increases the awareness.
Okay. Well, I'm sure
the-
glad you're there.
Yeah.
Or here.
I would love to be able to come back next year and say that we don't need office space anymore. We've solved the problem. We're all going to go get jobs at Shopko. So, but until then, we'll do our best.
Well, thank you for your report. I'm glad that everything's working out the way it is, and
Yeah.
we still have service in Hardin County.
Yeah.
And Mary, thanks for coming down
You bet.
and
Thanks.
updating us and letting us meet you and get a face to what's going on, and someone we can get a hold of.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, anything else, the questions from the board?
No, but I appreciate the transition that we're keeping at a local level,
Yeah.
and the clients that you already have, it's an easier transition for them too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks.
Very good, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, item 13. We have back on a request for waiver of right to appeal issuance of final construction for permit Buckeye 27, Concord 25 sites. And this is on that 14-day wait before they can start to do construction. We denied that last week. That was the start of the 14 days. It's now been 8 days. Is that right, what we found out on that? So it's brought back to the board to see if we want to waive the final few days here of the 14 on this site. Nancy, have you have any complaints or letters on any of this, phone calls? Does any board members have any contacts or anything about this site from anyone? Okay.
None.
And I'm sure the reason that they want to is basically because it snowed yesterday. And getting these sites up before winter, I'm sure, is a something they want to do. And we have
Yep,
a representative here.
Scott Henry, with Summit Farms here on that, and that was basically the only reason I was coming today, was just to, we realized that this is a little different than what the regular process is, and our only push forward is just so that way we're constructing these when the weather's good to do it, and not bad, and also so we're not running into potentially delaying construction until the spring if we can get it done here yet
Okay.
this fall, and so that's really the only reason that we're seeking this out of what the normal process is. And you're right, when I was driving to work in the snow yesterday, I was really nervous. So,
A quick question, and you probably have an easy answer for this, but why didn't you apply for the permit 14 days earlier?
yeah, and so that's all just as far as making sure that we had arrangements in place with landowners that we're working with, that they're okay with the project, and then just going through developing the matrix scores and everything like that.
But
Bit
you
more on the
know
development.
that that's always the case. You guys are experts at this. I was just, since you knew that November is November, and
Yep.
it gets colder and construction is more difficult, goes slower.
Yeah.
I was just wondering why you didn't apply for the permit earlier.
Yeah, if we had if we could encourage the landowners we're working with to make a decision a little bit sooner in the year, that was the delay as far as just acquiring the ground for the
Okay,
site. Yep.
so it's just the acquisition is
Yep.
slower than what you expected.
Exactly, because we can't submit the permit until we have an arrangement in place with them that we're working with, and then also too, that matrix score that we developed to submit that permit, we want to make sure that it's 100% accurate, and so as far as Pinnacle getting their maps all in place and whatnot, it's just the regular development timeline stuff delayed us on these, and so we knew we'd be pushing it here later in the year, and so that was kind of the one-off of these three sites, I guess.
Well, because of that, I know that I appreciated Kent's presentation. He did an excellent job of educating us
Yeah.
of the point system and where you ranked with your point system for the application of the permit, so
Definitely.
appreciate that.
Mhm.
But
No, my biggest thing was I think it should be out there in the public,
Yeah.
and we gave it at least 7 days, so the request coming back again is not that bad. We've had no complaints.
Yep.
And I think it's feasible with, I understand how that system works with a farmer wanting to know if the landowner, maybe a farmer may not be, but of making that decision whether they should or shouldn't and how that funding comes together, and it's just, not everything's perfect.
No, it's not.
But I have not received any complaints, and I guess I would be, we have allowed 8 days for anyone to come in and talk about it, so I guess I would be for waiving this, but let that up to a motion from you guys.
I make a motion to approve the resolution waiving the county rights to appeal the issuance of final construction permit on Buckeye 27 site.
second.
You doing just Buckeye?
Yeah, I'm just doing one at a
One at a time.
Okay. Been moved and second. Any further discussion? Is that a roll call vote, Rancy, or?
Yes, please. Lance?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye. Then the Concord site is in the same situation,
Yep, correct.
same days and everything.
Move to approve the resolution waiving the county's rights to appeal issuance of final construction permit on Concord 25 site.
Second.
So moved and second. Any further discussion on that? Roll call vote.
Lance?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye. That motion carries. And then we are on to item 16, acknowledge receipt of DNR determination of Buckeye 21 site.
I skipped number 13. Didn't
Oh.
need to.
You didn't need any action,
Okay.
it was just for your discussion.
Right.
Okay.
So we'd be
I'll
at
make a
item
motion
16.
to acknowledge the receipt, DNR determination for Buckeye 21 site.
Okay.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Any further discussion on that? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Now we have a request for waiver on that site. And the days on that has been 6? Is that what we
days.
found out? 6,
Yeah.
right. So 2 less than the other one because that came in about right after our last meeting was over. So that's why we couldn't do it last week. So we have had 6 days on this, and has anybody received any complaints or phone calls on this site? Concerns? No. So I'll open that up for the board to take a look at that one. That would be a resolution also on Buckeye 21 site.
So you literally have 3 different construction crews?
We
working on
have,
3 different sites?
we have 2 of them, and it takes them roughly 4 days to construct the site. And so that was, so we're basically having, they're kind of bouncing off of each other depending on how it all goes.
So
And
this
then-
actually would benefit because,
Yeah, these would benefit us just as far as, in a
well,
granted,
we
they're all the
already,
same county.
you have
so.
2 construction crews starting evidently tomorrow then on,
Tomorrow,
on
yep.
the next, on those 2 sites.
Yep,
They'll spend 4 days at each of those,
yep.
and then.
The goal would be to start Monday or Tuesday roughly of next week.
With
on-
21.
On the 3rd site, yep. And so that's why we put in the request for this one as well, knowing that it was 2 days less, I guess, than the other 2, but knowing that there is a potential that we could break ground early next week before next Wednesday's meeting. So that was the reason for the request right after that one.
And if we table that one, you're into your 15 days before, you're into your days before we get to the next meeting anyway.
Exactly. And so that's kind of, that was the push on that one, I guess, was just
You're
understanding that it came in
gaining
that.
2 days if the weather stays.
Exactly, yep, and that's kind of the whole magic 8 ball that we're playing with here anyways, is what happens if we do get another morning like yesterday, or where it's worse, and so we're having to take advantage of basically any days that we can, just to ensure that we can get, it's more an issue of getting the concrete going as quick as we can. The dirt, we have time as far as that, but we just have to have everything prepared for concrete.
Mhm. All right.
It's been out there 6 days, and I haven't heard anything. It's just 2 days less than the other one. I understand the importance and the timeline of it. If it was out there one day, I'd definitely say no.
No, agreed. And that was kind of the discussion after last week too. We have been pushing our luck a little bit too much last week, and so that's kind of what we learned from that one. And
So I'll make the motion to approve the resolution and waiving the county's rights to appeal the issuance on final construction permit Buckeye 21 site.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on that? If not, that would be a roll call vote.
Lance?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye. That motion carries. And that takes care of all of those sites. So thank you.
appreciate your support, guys, and
You bet.
help. And if there's ever an opportunity for us to give a tour for you guys or anything like that on some of these sites, we're happy to accommodate. We know that we've been in here quite a bit this year with you,
Yep.
so.
I've been in enough one, it's all right.
I figured you had. So, thank you
Great.
very much, guys.
All right, thanks. All right, number 19. We thought we may not be able to do those because Lynn was in another meeting in Now Falls, but I see he snuck in the door.
Here's
So-
a copy for you guys. Just a little bit of history. When we started doing county case management back in 1998, we approved an agreement, a 2080 agreement with County Case Management Services. And County Case Management Services is affiliated with ISAC, but it's also a separate entity. It's a 28 entity among counties that do county case management. And I think right now there's approximately 65 or 70 counties that do that. But when we entered that agreement, they do a lot of our technical assistance. They come up, they review our files, they help us get ready for our accreditation surveys. They provide training that we go to help us keep up on all the rules and different things. But what I'm asking today is that you would approve this letter that basically would terminate that agreement with CCMS for ending June 30th of 2014. The way the 2080 reads is that we have to notify them by, I think, November 15th of the year previous to doing that. So I look at it kind of a keeping our options open thing. There's been some changes in the way they let us establish our rates for case management. I've been serving on a statewide work group that's working on trying to change that for the future, but we yet don't know how that's going to change or what we're going to have to do. And we currently spend about, I think I figured we'd spend around $7,000 a year on this. And even though that's not tons of money, depending on how the rate structure is set and how we determine our rates, we may have to take some costs out of our case management budget. And if we had to make a choice, I'd definitely choose to do this rather than having to lay off staff or cut staff time or whatever, because we need the case managers available to do the work with the clients. So by approving this, and this is a letter that we as a region developed, so every county in the region is bringing this to their board, and Ron's on the regional board, and that regional board looked at this letter, and I think I didn't take an official vote on it, but everyone there was in favor of doing this. Hopefully we'll be able to, by next July, renegotiate something with them, either they reduce their rate or make their services more in line with what we need, so that we can maybe sign a new agreement with them starting next year. But you can see the fourth paragraph there just basically says that this letter serves as a written notice required by Section 4 of the 2080 that Hardin County will withdraw effective July 1st, 2014. If we don't do this, we're locked in until July 1st of 2015, which is really, over a year and a half down the road that we'd be locked into that monthly payment. And we pay it based on per client. So if we serve 100 clients in a month, We pay $550 per client per month, so most months it runs around $550, give or take some, because we usually serve about 100 clients a month. So I would just ask that you, I guess the motion would probably need to be that you're terminating the 2080 agreement effective June 30th, and then if you could have this letter printed on your letterhead and signed by the board to send in.
Okay. Any questions from them on that? Now to take a motion on that letter.
Move to terminate the county case management services agreement effective June 30th. Is that how you want that?
Okay, it says July 1st, but I think we should say June 30th because that's actually the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
Second.
So we have a second that we terminate the contract. Any further discussion?
Doesn't this agency evolve with what's happening with our regionalization?
Yeah, they're actually coming out to each, like, we just got an email yesterday, they want to come out and meet with our region, and they're doing that to each new region to talk about how they could change their services. I mean, I think they need to do some things to go with some of the changes that are taking place and maybe serve us better, and so it could be a win-win situation for
Right.
everybody if they can work something out and still serve us. But we do need a presence statewide representing us with, going to the table with DHS and all the different groups, the legislators and things. So there is a need for it. It's just a matter of keeping our options open, and hopefully we can reduce the cost.
Mhm. Okay.
We have a moved and seconded. Now we just need to call for a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then the next item is item 20, appointment to the MHGD Advisory Board and Case Management Advisory Board.
Yeah, we have, basically we have the same people that serve both boards, but we're required to have two different boards. So we have a Case Management Advisory Board and a Mental Health for the county. And there's 10 people on that board. We had a resignation that you guys approved a couple months ago. Pam Platt resigned. So we do have an opening, and it was brought up at our last advisory board meeting about filling that vacancy. And Jim Johnson had expressed an interest, and the chair of our advisory board talked to him, and then I've also talked to him, and he's very interested in serving. And Jim's had a long relationship with these issues and understands the regionalization because he was working on that before Ron got involved. And so I guess I just wanted to check with you how you would like to fill that position, if you feel we could do an appointment to finish the term for that person that resigned, or if you feel a need to advertise and have people fill out that form, or whatever you would prefer, so we can move forward on that.
I think we can appoint just to fill the term. We don't have to advertise for that.
And this term would expire December 31st of 2015.
Okay.
So,
Well, Jim would be a good candidate, no doubt. So,
I just want to know what's legal.
We can appoint
We can legally appoint to finish the term.
to finish the term. If you would change the term, then.
yeah, we'll have other
to-
people's terms that'll expire at the end of this year, then you always do
Right.
that thing where you, in January, but since this is just finishing a term, I would.
Plus,
think-
that would leave the rotation the same if we
Right.
just filled it, so.
Yep.
I will take a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to appoint Jim Johnson for the term to fill in for Pam Platt till January 1st,
2015.
2014.
December 31st of 15 is when it would end.
15, sorry, yep.
I will second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? That motion carries. And Community Service Department update?
I prepared a written thing here, and I know you guys are kind of busy this morning, so I'll try not to take too much of your time. Just pointing out a few things. And Ron serves on our regional board, so I know he's familiar with all this, and he probably shares some of this with you, but just so you're aware of it, that Warren County now has joined our region. So we now have 9 counties, and I think the Warren County Board actually officially approved it like the 1st of October. So they're on board, they've been approved by the state. So we have a 2080 agreement. Warren isn't actually part of that yet because we still, even though we have a 2080, it hasn't been blessed by DHS. So we're going to have to make some further revisions. So when we do that, we'll bring Warren in and they'll be listed on the 2080 and they'll have to come back to you guys for approval. And then, of course, I put down the governing board is meeting monthly, and Ron represents the county on that. I guess we didn't meet this month, but otherwise we've met every month. A lot of issues. I put down here some of the things that the management team has been working on. We have a regional management plan that we have to have developed in the state by April next year, so we've been meeting to try to get that done. Also, we have fiscal policies that have been approved, and we just sent in our first payment. I'm sure you guys noticed that claim for $50,000. That was our first payment to the regional pool, and Madison County is our fiscal agent for that. We'll also be doing contract and rate setting, and then enterprise services, which would be looking at the services outside of Fund 10, like case management and our clubhouse that we provide. As far as case management, as I mentioned, just that I've been serving on this rate setting group, and we don't know yet how that'll affect how we set our rates for the future. This year we were restricted to a 23% for non-direct costs. And so for this first year, we're hoping that the region will basically cover that difference, because if you remember, we moved case management out of the Fund 10 into the general fund, and we've been billing out of that. And so the plan is for this year anyway that the regional funds will cover that. And so we'll probably have to do a transfer then into the general fund to cover those additional costs. And then we're working on what we're going to do after that, how we're going to change things so that we make it work financially. We continue to see new referrals. We just get a lot of new referrals. But we will lose some clients with health homes, which is kind of tied to the new federal act. They're going to a lot of health homes, not only for mental health, but for primary health care also. And so the people that we currently serve that are on habilitative services and that are chronically mentally ill through Magellan will actually go to the health homes. It's supposed to be effective July 1st. I've heard now that might be put back a while. So that would be about probably, I think, around 16 or 18 of our clients that would go to those health homes. But we're also getting a lot of new referrals, so I think it'll kind of be a trade-off. We did get our accreditation survey because we got 100% on our last survey, so they extended it another year. But we will be up for that in June, so we're starting to try to prepare for that. General assistance, I wanted to bring that up because we just seem to get more and more calls and requests for service. I don't know if it's because people have become more aware of us or just that there is a higher need out there, but so it's gotten to me kind of looking at our policies and wondering if we need to make a few more changes. I think there's a few issues we need to address. We have a limit. We use the FIP guidelines for eligibility, which FIP is very low. I mean, it's like for a 2-person household, it's like $300 and some. It's not even near 100% of poverty. But we also have an exception in there so that if somebody has a shut-off notice or an eviction, they can apply with us, and once a year they qualify through emergency assistance, and then they're required to do a repay agreement. So we've been doing that. But we do have a few people actually that apply that are like I just had one a couple days ago who doesn't even qualify for LIHEAP program, which is the federal emergency heating assistance money, because their income was too high. But yet they have a shut-off notice. So, they were wanting assistance through our office. And if we help them, they have to sign a reimbursement. But, to be honest, we very seldom get any repayment on those. We do say that if they don't honor that reimbursement, they're never eligible again. So I've got a lot of people who haven't honored those who aren't eligible. They call and I have to say, sorry, but you didn't honor this repayment, so you're not eligible. But I'm just wondering if we need to look at that policy and maybe make a few changes in that to affect a few of those people that are, you know, maybe just not managing their money well, not getting their bill paid, and then coming to us to help pay their bill. And if we open that up, there might be a couple other things I might recommend. So I guess if you guys are okay with that, I might start looking at that and looking at some changes and bring it back to you for consideration.
I'm okay with it.
And then Central Iowa Recovery, if you remember, you know, our county put $25,000 in, we joined all those other counties and formed this new entity, Central Iowa Recovery, and it's gone so well, but we now basically we're looking at doubling the staff. So Hardin County we have one practitioner now, and by December we should have another practitioner on board, because we had more than a full caseload on a waiting list wanting service. And then a few things I jotted down there that I forgot to put on here. The Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, you know, that started October 1st where people could sign up for that, and they're supposed to be signed up so that it's effective January 1st. And we are getting a lot of phone calls, and I've even had a couple people come into our office and say, I'm here to apply for, they always say Obamacare, because that's the way they're going, you know, I'm here to apply for Obamacare. And we've directed them to the website, which isn't functional yet. I mean, it's not working right. And there is an 800 number they can call. I've tried to check around, and there are some people that can be trained to, and I think they have to be approved by the federal government to actually help people with that process. And I haven't found anybody yet. Do you know of anybody now? I mean, I've checked with the hospital in different places, and I can't find anybody yet that's been certified to do that. So I guess for now, we're just referring them to that website and that phone number, and so, I mean, we could maybe try to get somebody approved, but I think it's a process where you have to apply, and it takes a while to get approved, and then you have to go through training, and it's going to take time away from our normal duties to do that.
I think it's tough to be a teacher to the public when the person that's telling you how to teach doesn't have things together yet. So I mean, it makes it really hard for us to put someone in place there when they don't have a website that works. And I was reading they're trying to get people trained too to go out and help people. They don't even have that in place yet. So I think it's real tough for us to, you know, that's taking over a mountain almost right there of trying to tell someone how to do something when nobody really seems to know it yet at this time. So I know they're working on that internet site, and you would think they would get that, you know, fairly easy.
I did talk. I went to a training yesterday afternoon that Iowa Medicaid put on, and there were a lot of, you know, there were hospitals and doctors and everybody that gets Medicaid there to learn more about it, and they did suggest. I mean, their IME has an 800 number, so I think we'll start using that more, because until this website gets functional, maybe that can be a way to start. But I mean, we've kind of, just like when DHS pulled out and didn't have a county officer anymore, we still get lots of people that come in thinking we can help them apply for Title 19.
Mm-hmm.
And we do try, we have you know, the application's available, and we do occasionally have to help people with them, but we really try not to, you know, we try to say you can do it online, or here's the application, because it does, you know, it takes a lot of time, and if we would start trying to help everybody that comes in wanting to apply for that. I mean, I like to help people out, but we all have a lot of other work that we need to get done. So I guess for now, we'll refer them to those things, and if anybody becomes aware of any other resources, you know, I've been checking, I haven't really found much here in the county, so.
I think there'll be a lot of things open up as we go forward. It's just so new, and so, like I say, they're struggling at the moment, but I would think they'd be able to come up with a website that is user-friendly and can handle the load, and that will take a lot of the burden off of everyone. So I guess we can hope that gets done.
Yeah, and I think the enrollment's open clear till March, but the program actually is supposed to start January 1st. So. Another thing I just wanted to mention was the voc rehab office that's in the upstairs over there.
Mm-hmm.
Our voc rehab counselor, Eric Evans, left. He got a promotion and took a different job, and so we didn't have one for a while. And then they did hire a new person, but they kind of reorganized so that she's domiciled in Marshall now. But since she still serves Hardin County, they came and took like a bunch of the stuff out of that office that was owned by Voc Rehab. But there's still some partitions and different things up there that I think they said we can have, which we might want to, I see you guys are having an auction, you might want to, I mean, the
Oh, okay.
petitions I don't think are of any use to us, so I can ask Jody if he wants to put it on the auction for that. But I did tell her I'd like her to stay in, at least have the office to meet with clients. So she's not going to be here as much, but she'll be here a few days, hopefully a day or two a week, and continue to use that office just to meet with clients.
Okay. Yeah, if you have anything in the building over there that is no longer needed, just get with Jody and get that onto the
When
auction.
is that? The end of
The 30th.
Next
30th of
Wednesday.
October?
Mhm.
Next Wednesday at 4 o'clock. So,
Okay. And then just the other thing I jotted down was the IT, and I don't know, James worked on that, but we're trying to get our new computers and our laptops and everything and the smart board working, and so
okay,
we'll continue to work with him on getting that done.
great.
So,
Busy.
yep.
Do you
That's
foresee
it.
any more counties joining the region?
Not right now, but like our Central Iowa Recovery Region, that actually covers 2 different regions. So I could see maybe some of those counties that are in that other region wanting to eventually join us.
I think I heard the comment at one of my other meetings where we have a lot better program, it's more organized. And that's one of the reasons they
We're kind
changed
of ahead of
for
the-
Warren County.
You know, we've kind of been ahead. We've kind of gone ahead of most regions in some of this stuff. Actually, we're only the second region that's actually formed. I mean, we technically are a region as of July 1st, and we're the second one, so. But, yeah, we had, because Warren and Jasper both had been already signed on as part of another region, and then changed their mind, wanted to come our way, so.
All right, any other questions for Lynn? All right, thanks Lynn for your report and being able to make it this morning.
Yeah, glad it worked.
All right, item 22 is the Recorder's Monthly Report. And we have that in front of us. Take a motion to accept that.
Make a motion to accept the Recorder's Monthly Report.
I will second.
So moved and seconded. Let it know that's for 9/1 to 9/30. That's the report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We have a sheriff's vehicle insurance claim, and I know Lance, you called our insurance company this morning and got some information on it, and also that our lawyer was out of the country.
Yeah.
And so we will go with what you found out.
We can basically table it for another period of time. We don't have to move on it right away, but either way, even though the insurance paid it, we're self-insured and it's gonna cost the county the money anyway, so we do have the option to not have the insurance paid and actually go after the money ourselves.
Okay.
But we don't have to make any decisions on it right away.
Okay.
But in the end, we're paying the bill. Whether the insurance pays it or us pay it, we pay the bill.
And what we have a person that's backed into one of our sheriff's vehicles and caused
Two.
Two vehicles, yeah.
and caused some damage, and they're not insured. And it's happened here in the town, so the city of Eldora was the one that wrote up the claims and everything, and
I wanted to let you know, I told you, but I don't know if I told Ron or Lance that when I spoke to you earlier about the property, the whole entire block, I was basing that off of what my conversation with Dave was, and he said that there's actually a house in between there. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clarified, so
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
I didn't steer either of you wrong, so.
yeah. And so this does, well, I believe what Lance found out this morning is that when we, like anyone else, when we have an insurance claim, it does affect
Mhm.
your rates. And so that, even though it wasn't a big amount, it still does affect the rates, so. I think what I hear you saying is we'll wait till he gets back in, there's not a time deadline, and
Yes.
we can visit with him and see where we want to go with it
They just prefer to have it done within this year.
this year, okay.
Just before January.
So I would take a motion on that, to table that until we have the information available to us.
Move to table to a future date.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Item 24, we have a change of status in the Sheriff's Department.
Move to approve Kyle Utley, correctionals officer, part-time, a hiree.
There a second?
I'll second it.
Ron, second it. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. I just had one. Is that what you guys had? Yep.
Yes.
All right, we have a cleaning contract within the county to clean our buildings, and that comes due in November. And what we're looking at here is to move that, extend that contract to the end of June, which more or less lines up with our budgeting, and would also let us to start budgeting for it right now. And so that's really what we're here looking at today, I believe. Is there any questions, or anybody have any comments?
This would be the notice for the termination only. Instead of ending in November, it's gonna end in June 30th.
Okay. Okay. So we are going to extend this contract and have it terminate at the end of June.
Yes.
And then at that time, we will have something in place, whether it goes back out to bids or whatever we decide to do
Yes.
with it. All right. I will take that in a form of a motion.
Move to extend this contract and to be terminated June 30th.
And that's of 2014.
Yes.
And I'll
Yeah.
second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on that? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Utilities, permits, and secondary roads. I visited with the engineer right before the meeting, and the meeting was going to be long, and he had to be out on the roads today and get some stuff done. So he asked if he would not have to be here. He did not have any utility permits. He did say the shouldering will start on D41 next week, and that project is winding down, so they're doing good there. And he said it sounds like all their other projects are going along very smoothly, so I don't know. But he has any comments on that? Okay. So we will not have any other utility permits or secondary roads comments. Do we have any other business in the room? If not, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks everyone for coming. It's amazing how fast everybody empties the room.